and welcome to Hometown Conversations with Sharon and Jenny. I'm your host, Sharon St. Clair and Jenny DeLucia, and we are so happy to see you again. We are about to commence, just for future reference, our Glow Up series, and we're going on the road. So stay tuned. We've got a great lineup. But before that, we are going to start today with Don't Blow Up Before the Glow Up. And we have Beth Mascetta, who is a partner, in the
That was
I've known Beth for years.
She's going to make me start laughing now. Go ahead.
That was like a poem right there.
Yes, I've known Beth for years. She is a partner at the HBK Valuation Group. Beth is an expert witness. She is a forensic accountant. So in the event that we are seeing a divorce or a business valuation or maybe a business divorce of a partnership, this is the person that you're going to want to talk with. And Beth, we're so happy to have you. Welcome.
Oh, thank you.
Welcome.
I don't know about the blow up part. It's like there's going to be an explosion here, but I take care of explosions as well.
There's going to be a lot of information.
Sure.
Valuable information today.
It's all about
I'm
positioning.
happy to help.
Yes. So, Beth, let's just jump right in. So, for purposes of our discussion today, because I know that you cover a wide variety of different substantive areas, let's talk about divorce in the sense of husband and wife, not business divorce.
Sure.
Okay. So, in Pennsylvania, when people get divorced, we are an equitable distribution state. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that means?
So just by way of background, I'm not giving any legal advice. I'm a CPA and a certified valuation analyst, but with regard to equitable distribution in Pennsylvania, it is the division of assets, and there are 17 factors which assess how assets are divided for equitable distribution. It can be your education, it could be your premarital assets, it could be inheritances, it can be the life of the marriage. It's 17 different factors that the attorneys weigh and measure and set forth in their pretrial narratives. And then the judges and the divorce hearing officers, they measure all of those assessments in order to make a recommendation. That's a lot of words. I apologize.
No.
I'm taking it all in.
No, we're
Don't take it that much in.
yeah. we're taking it in. Okay.
Well, thank God for our cheat sheets here.
Yes.
Okay, Beth. Do you get involved with advising on alimony and child support, and what is the big challenge of that? That's got to be hard.
So I frequently get hired by the attorney, and the attorney has a client, and I meet with the client, and we come up with a strategy on the situation. Most of the times we start off calculating disposable income, which is all of your income that's available to be provided in a divorce situation. So we assess income from wages, pass-through income from businesses. It could be pensions that are currently being received. It could be restricted stock units that are vesting during a certain period of time. We have to assess whether or not we want to capture that for alimony and support on an interim basis, or we want to make it an asset, which is kind of the strategy. So it's good to work with the attorney. It's good to work with the individual to really determine what their reasonable needs are. They prepare a budget and say, listen, this is what it costs for me to run my day-to-day household. Is there enough money from both parties or one party in order to fund the household? Because it's really more expensive to have two people in two different households than it is in one household. So we have to kind of navigate that as well.
I do hear a lot about couples staying in one house together while they're going through a divorce because of, like you said, the cost.
Right. It's a problem. It really can be a problem. So you could be separated and still in the same house. There may be one floor that you're living on or the other floor that you're living on, or but it's definitely a problem. You may not want to buy a house. You may not know what your financial circumstances are going forward. So you don't want to put money into a house now, but definitely you may want to think about it. I know what I'm getting. I know what my entitlement is. I know how much money I'm getting. So now I feel comfortable enough to buy a house, which is where Sharon would come in with Howard Hanna.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes. Do you see people before they're getting divorced, maybe quietly, like contemplating it?
Many. I see many people that way. I see many people that would want to kind of maybe ask me for advice, and they may go through all of the attorneys in the city to knock the other person out. So they may have to strategically eliminate some attorneys because they know that they may be less advantageous to their position. So it's interesting. There's a lot of strategy going on when people get a divorce. They're figuring things out, they're segregating their money, they're moving their money. So it can be problematic. So I help them figure out where the money may be hidden, where the money may have been moved, and just actually kind of quantifying everything, tax affecting it. So.
Right.
Well, I can tell you, having known Beth for many years, we've had.
God, you didn't say decades.
I know.
Thank God. She didn't say that.
But we've seen situations where, Beth might be involved, for me it's on real estate because it all plays out under the roof, where we're involved before the person who's getting divorced is ever realizing that there's something that's coming down the pike. I mean, people do seek your advice just like they seek mine when they're contemplating something, but they want to do it in confidence and privacy.
Or even preparing for a prenuptial agreement. They're going to say, well, I'm contemplating marriage. What did I bring to the table? What did they bring to the table? How do I protect that? Because there are so many people who are married 1, 2, 3 times, and they want to protect those assets for their children, for their next generation, and they want to make sure that those assets are quantified and protected. So they come to me either in contemplation of a marriage or contemplation of a divorce, and maybe even doing a postnuptial agreement. A postnuptial agreement is when the parties want to just put together a framework for continuing on with the marriage. Most of the time I see that it eventually leads to a divorce, but that postnup probably sets forth their understanding of what their assets are and how they want to maneuver their life going forward.
So when we're dealing with a marital estate, and that's typically what it's referred to, matrimonial litigation, because being an expert witness, you're in the courts, but, and you deal with a lot of different types of scenarios and individuals, but
Correct.
What are typically the biggest assets in a marital estate that people are looking at that you're involved with?
So day to day, I don't really get involved with the smaller end divorces because what are they fighting over? A house. There's a valuation done, there's an appraisal done. There are pensions. I may have to value a pension and I may have to testify to a pension. Or I may value a pension and there's another expert on the other side. I have to negotiate with that other expert to come up with a value. And then businesses. I typically get involved with business valuation. So I look at the income stream from the business, I look at the value of the business, and then how do we structure the deal? So in answer to your question, it's probably marketable securities, pensions, 401k plans, homes, and businesses are typically the big assets. Some people have trusts. We have to evaluate those assets, increase in value of certain things, or they had a business at the date of marriage and then they're separated. Now they have that same business at the date of separation. So then I have to evaluate any increase during that period of time because it's a premarital asset.
So for the sake of our audience, because I see this a lot and you see this on a daily basis, let's define, in Pennsylvania, the marital box. So if we look at marriage as a box, we look at, this is our box, and everything before the date of marriage, and then the end of the box is the date of separation. Is that correct? And everything in between from the date of marriage to separation is inside the box?
That's correct.
Okay.
So anything you acquire at your date of or before your date of marriage is a premarital asset. So it's important to know what you have before going into a marital situation, because you may be asked at some point in the future, God forbid, that you need to define what you had so it can be carved out when we're looking at what the marital estate is. Date of separation or date of filing is a defining moment in Pennsylvania, and that's a line in the sand. So if you're contributing to a 401k, contributing to a pension, doing other movements of buying and selling businesses after that point of view, that could be the defining moment. So that would be the date of separation. So the marital box is that piece in between.
And that can be a short box, a very short-term marriage. It can also be a very extended marriage of many decades and children.
Correct.
But everything that has occurred in the life cycle of that marriage inside that box. And then I'm sure that you're involved in litigation where the box lines start to get a little bit blurry and defined.
Well, you know, I think Jen said at the beginning, living in the same house together, but you're separated, right? So I have a case right now where the clients are disputing their date of separation. Is it the year prior where husband believes it is, or is it 18 months later what the wife believes it is? So I may have to do calculations at various times to say, okay, assuming this set of facts and circumstances, I value things here. Assuming this fact and circumstance, I have to value things there. So, and typically I try to negotiate these cases with the other expert or with the parties themselves.
Right. Now, you know, back in my day, you know, I hate when people say that, but we didn't talk about prenups. You know, are they upheld in Pennsylvania? I mean, I would always think, oh, a prenup, oh my God, you know, that meant that like they didn't trust me, or they thought I was going to, you know, we were already going to fail at this marriage, you know, back in the day.
Right.
But now I feel like it's something that people talk about more openly, don't you think, in relationships?
I think the fact of the matter is we have all these blended families. We talked about this. We have multiple marriages, right? So the fact of the matter is you want to protect those assets for your children going into perpetuity, or it could be a family-owned business. You want to keep that in your family, you know, to hand it down to future generations. So I don't think it has as much stigma. It's not stigmatized like it used to be because people understand I'm bringing something to the table. Maybe I'm in my 40s and I'm getting remarried again, and I just want to protect my assets, you know. And, you know, so in answer to your question with regard to our prenups upheld, I've had one situation where somebody took against the prenup agreement. So it depends on how well it's drafted, by meaning how well it's written, what's contained in that prenup. If there's any ambiguity in the prenup, it causes a problem because there could be your lawyer sees it differently than maybe husband's lawyer sees it differently. So, but usually they're upheld pretty much in Pennsylvania from what my experience is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, with that said, Beth, the prenups, again, to me, in today's society, and you both raised excellent points about the blended family, it's an act of love. I look at it as an act of protection.
Oh, I agree.
And it also defines you're not, you know, when you set forth the parameters, you also flush out intentions, because you're saying, listen, whether we're married a year or 5 years, whatever that is, you're going to be protected.
Right.
And you're with me because you want to be with me, not because
Of what I bring to the table.
of what I bring to the table.
Right.
So it's actually, to me, it's an act of love, protection, and transparency. And setting
transparency is so important because a lot of people have, you know, all of the lead up to the wedding, right? All of the excitement, all of the parties, all of the engagement, just all of those things. But if there's a prenup involved, you're going with eyes wide open. You know exactly what your entitlement is. You know exactly where you stand. And I agree, it's intentional, and you know where you stand, and it's transparent, totally transparent. I think it's a good thing, but I'm a numbers person. A lot of people go in with stars in their eyes, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
the love and the music and the violins or whatever it could be, you know?
Courting each other.
Yeah.
Well, you know, and to that point, because we have so many people today, and I see this a lot, where people were buying homes and they're not legally married. So now the question becomes, if you're not married, do people have rights? And then do you get involved in those situations?
I have. So if you're not legally married, you really don't have any rights to any of these assets that are acquired during your marriage. You really don't. I've had people who have had long-term relationships and they get married at the end of the relationship, and then they're married for a very short period of time. So again, it starts from the date of marriage to the date of separation. And unless you're titling things different, unless you're commingling monies together, it can get murky. It really can get fuzzy when you're looking at a marital estate. And I try to make it less murky, try to make it crystal clear for the courts and really explain my position to them.
So what is gray divorce? And you know, Sharon, she's so good because she got these questions. And I was like looking at this, I'm like, I'm not going to look it up. I'm going to let Beth explain it to me because I'm sure there's other people out there that are probably thinking, what is gray divorce?
So a gray divorce is defined as anybody over the age of 50 in a long-term marriage that is going through the divorce process. I've had clients as old as in their mid-70s.
Really?
So you would think at that point in your life, okay, this is the person I'm going to be with for the rest of my life. But circumstances change. It could be a sickness. It could be a death in the family. It could be a movement. You know, it could be moving to another state. Okay, I didn't like this, and now I'm face to face with this person that maybe you've been running in two different directions. Maybe somebody's retired and somebody was a stay-at-home homemaker, whether male or female. And all of a sudden, I'm faced with this person every day, whereas we were living our lives, raising children, and all of a sudden, do I actually like this person? You know,
Yes,
it just
I've
becomes
heard
that
it.
way after a while. So those are the sad situations. They've accumulated assets and they've accumulated wealth, but now it's time to divide it. And people get territorial about their assets. Well, you were the stay-at-home homemaker, whether male or female. I created all of this. Why do you want something that I created, but you created it as a family unit?
Right.
And a lot of people don't understand that. They get very territorial about things that they may have earned over their marriage. So we try to navigate that as well.
So the timing of this could not be better. So because I can't write this.
Yeah.
So last night I'm on the phone. Okay.
Oh,
And I have a gray divorce going on right now. And
Right.
I have my client out of state who's going to be moving to Pennsylvania,
Right.
and the spouse is going to stay in that state with that child, and my client's going to move here. Anyway, he calls me last night at 9:30. He said, I can't do this. And I said, what's going on? He said, I've had to spend 5 hours with my ex-wife, and we cannot agree on the marital mattress. And I told her it's out. And he goes, and if she will not take that marital mattress, then get the lawyers involved, because I'm unpacking every box and going through everything. I've been very nice, but I want that marital mattress out of here. This is a gray divorce.
Wow.
It's unbelievable
Wow.
what people get attached
Yes,
to.
yes.
It can be a pet, which I understand. It's
Yes,
like a
pet
child.
custody. Pet custody.
Right, I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had people who have counted every single thing in a drawer.
Yes.
Like it's your bathroom drawers, you know, the tubes of toothpaste, the number of toothbrushes. I've had people actually count that.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, and put values on it. It's just the craziest thing ever.
Do you-
Just give it to them.
Yeah, right.
You
Do
know?
you get the opposite too? Do you get some people that would be like, you know what, you can have everything. I don't want anything. I'm just
They
walking out the
probably
door."
won't need her if we
I
give
know,
up
that's true.
everything.
We don't want to talk about those people that want to do that stuff. Now,
We want people that want to protect their rights, and you
That's
call
right.
back.
I want
That's
my
right.
toothpaste because I love crust. I should get a spoon.
well, yeah, you have people that say, this is not worth me arguing with the mother of my children or the father of my children.
Yeah.
And they just want it to be
Nitpick.
over
It's
with. They just want to
nitpicking.
get on with their life. They want to be happy. They don't want to be embroiled in litigation for 3-4 years.
Yeah.
In Pennsylvania, it's a 1-year divorce. From your date of separation, you can move the case in 1 year. It used to be 2. But could you imagine being embroiled in litigation with the mother or father of your children for years, where there's so much contention and there's custody fights and there's, you know, you're fighting over a piece of property, or you're fighting over a business, or you're fighting over, well, you took that and I took that, or it could be a piece of jewelry, you know, that was gifted during the marriage or something. It's just, I just think that sometimes it's not a win-win situation. It's like, just, you know what, I just want to be happy and I want to be done, and this is not worth it.
It's
for
going to
me.
cost you $10 to fight over 10 cents.
I can tell you how many of those I've done.
Oh, absolutely.
Hundreds of dollars, you know, an hour to, you know, fight over something that's really not material to the marital estate. And that's sad. I don't want to do that, you know. I want them to keep as much of their money as they can. I don't want you to hire me so I can just watch all your money float away. I don't want to do that.
Right.
So,
You're there to basically advise and protect the marital assets so that it's not dissipated
right.
by the parties. Dissipated means that it's
Used, expended.
We're just litigating every little thing, like the Crest toothpaste. So what's a collaborative divorce?
So a collaborative divorce is when two parties are both on the same page and they want to get the divorce over with. They may hire a financial neutral, and the financial neutral is probably like a CPA like myself or a CVA like myself, and they compile the marital assets. They value everything in the marital estate. Also, in a collaborative divorce, there's usually a therapist involved because there's a lot of emotions that you have to navigate with regard to a divorce, whether it's custody issues and emotional issues with custody, or emotional issues just about, the falling apart of a relationship that you've probably nurtured for a good amount of time. So there's usually attorneys involved on either side, and usually if it doesn't work out, those attorneys have to leave, the financial neutral has to leave, and then you have to go down the litigation path. So you may be in collaboration for a year or 2 years or maybe more, and it falls apart for one reason or another. You have to get rid of those attorneys and then start the litigation process. So sometimes it's good if both parties are on the same page. If one person wants to hide money or move money, they're not on the same page, right? So that means that that's probably ripe for litigation and not necessarily a collaborative divorce.
Thanks for explaining that, because I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
So okay, when do you work with Nepo babies?
Well, a lot of times, and I don't think they refer to themselves as Nepo babies, but they really truly are. It's, second generation, third generation from people who have had companies, and they've either gifted or sold pieces of their business to their children. They may be protected with a prenup agreement, or they may not be protected with a prenup agreement, but if grandpa and father and mother have anything to say about it, they're usually protected with a prenup agreement. And then what is their entitlement? They may have a trust. The Nepo baby may have a trust. When are they entitled to an asset that's held in trust? Right. So it could be life insurance in a trust, it could be a business in a trust, it could be cash in a trust. And there are very specific things within that trust document, so you have to read the trust document, you have to understand the trust document, and the Nepo baby may not be entitled to anything until they're 30 years old. They get married at 25, they're not entitled to anything until they're 30. So we can't really do anything from that period, from when they're, that 5-year period to that 10-year period. So we get involved with them quite frequently.
I see, before I ask you a question, I see a lot where I'm working with generations, not only the individuals, but I'm also working with families.
Right.
Because, real estate is a very personal asset. It all takes place under the roof.
Right.
And I always like to say that I'm moving money and managing risk. But there's a lot of planning that goes into involving the family, dealing with the trust, dealing with how we're going to move the money,
Right.
what happens in this event, assuming that the parties, get along. And again, because that's a very personal asset, it also becomes very emotional. But a lot of people want to raise their flag and put in the stakes. So you are dealing with a multitude of parties just beyond the individuals when you get into trust, when you get into businesses, and you're starting to move money as
Right.
a complicated asset involving, at least for me, real estate. But
there's a lot of families that we deal with. Actually, people come in for a divorce and either mom or dad is there, or other
Exactly.
family members are there,
Yeah.
and they'll say, hey, listen, I built this business up. I want to protect him, and I want to protect this
course.
that I have either gifted or sold to them.
Right.
And they want to make sure that their assets are protected because they worked hard for their money. I get it. I understand.
Correct. It's that box. But if someone, let's say that someone is having an affair,
Yes.
and let's say that they're giving, and I've seen this play out, I've met the paramour before I've ever met the spouse, where they're giving gifts to the paramour.
Yes.
How does that affect the marital estate? What happens to the spouse who is what I'll call the injured spouse?
Right. So I've had cases like that where I've actually had my client came to me and said, Beth, I just want you to know I've quantified everything that I've spent on my girlfriends over 10 years, and it's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. So either the spouse believes that something's going on, and they'll say, Beth, I want you to do some tracing. I want you to look at our bank accounts. I want you to look at our pension plans or 401k plans, I want you to look at everything. I want you to see where it's gone to. I want you to quantify that. And then what happens usually is it gets added back to the marital estate. So say you have the house, you have all the other assets, but these monies have been expended on a third party. They will add that back to the marital estate. And I've seen in other cases where that piece was allocated more favorably to the hurt spouse. So in this particular instance, where it was hundreds of thousands of dollars, that spouse got 60% of an asset that's no longer there. So she had to be made whole from the other assets in order to kind of right the wrong that husband had done to her. Yeah.
Quantified the gifts to the
Correct.
to the third party, and then basically give a credit to the injured spouse with other assets
That's
as an offset.
correct.
Is
right.
that correct?
And the money was gone. So
Right.
you have to give it from other assets. So it was not allocated, and it's not 50-50 in every case either. It just depends on the facts and circumstances. If there's a spouse that's continued to work and made, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and now all of a sudden this is the only pot you have left. You may get more than 50%, you may get 55%, you may get 60%. Was there a lot of misconduct? Was there a lot of issues during the marriage? They try to right that wrong, and that's why it's called equitable distribution. What is equitable under this fact and circumstance?
And those 17 factors. So
yeah, 100%.
as we start to wrap up, what should people know? And when should they see someone like you?
If they definitely know that their marriage is no longer viable, they should know the assets. They should know where the assets are held. They should know what they have. And if they don't know, I've actually gone into people's houses and gone and looked at their paperwork.
Oh, really?
Or they should go to an estate planning person so they know exactly where everything is, the life insurance, the house, the brokerage accounts, the cash. They should really kind of educate themselves. They should pull their tax returns, things like that. A lot of people can't read a tax return, so they come to me and say, I see some strange things on this tax return. What does this mean? So I'll walk them through the documents and say, this is what I think your marital estate is worth. And before you go into any other further review, like you're talking about a dissipation, that's our starting point. We may be adding to it or subtracting from it. So just educate yourself.
This information, I'm sitting here because you two.
Your mouth is open.
I'm like, I'm like, wow, I didn't know all this. Thank you so much for being here
We
today.
really appreciate you.
For informing us and our
Oh,
audience.
I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to have a conversation with your audience and you, and just educating people. I think that's the most important thing. So
We can have her on all day.
I talk a lot. I apologize,
Well,
Jen and Sharon.
I'm going to tell you, she is a preeminent authority, and thank you so much for joining us and
thank
taking
you
the time
guys.
out of
Of
your
course.
schedule.
Yeah. Oh my God. Thank
We
you
really
so much for
appreciate
inviting
it.
me. I appreciate your
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Bye,
joining us
everyone.
with another episode of Hometown Conversations.
Bye.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.